Hey, what I'm doing? Shine back with another video for you all. I wanted to just real quick talk about First John chapter 5 verse 13. And basically John says that, these things I've written unto you that believe in the name of the Son of God, so that you may know you have eternal life. And I may have messed that up. But, John says that I write these things that you may know. You have confidence, you can have assurance in knowing you have eternal life. Now, when you ask someone who believes that you can lose salvation, the question will come up, well, how do you know when you've gone too far? How far is too far to forfeit your salvation? And typically, they won't have a concrete answer. They won't say, well, it's this many sins, or if you sin so long without repenting of it. Basically, everything boils down to, well, it's all about the relationship. The relationship. If you stray too far, if you strain a relationship too much, then, that's what does it. But they don't, they will say, well, you can't quantify it. You can't put a number to it. It's just, whenever you've gone too far. But they don't say how far is too far. And if that's the case, it's like, well, have you ever experienced losing salvation? If that's the case, do you currently have salvation, since it seems like you don't really know how far is too far? Or are you just assuming that even though you don't really know, biblically speaking, how far is too far, somehow you just know that you're okay? So in relation to 1 John 5 and 13, John says that he writes these things so they can know they have eternal life. So if you're asking someone, how do you know when you've lost salvation? How do you know when you've gone too far? And they basically say, well, there's no quantifiable answer for that. Well, then how does one know when they've lost salvation? So consequently, if that's the case, how does one know that they are still saved? So according to 1 John 5 and 13, if losing salvation is a biblical doctrine, how does that work, or how does that coincide with 1 John 5 and 13? How can you have confidence that you have salvation when you don't really know when you've lost it? Because what it seems to be is losing salvation becomes subjective. They will say, well, we're not preaching sinless perfectionism. We're not saying that the moment you do something wrong, you just lose it, but if you just go too far. But what man may consider too far may not be the same as what God considers too far. They'll use these verses that they feel like support their belief, but still and yet they can't give you an answer. What it boils down to is, well, we really don't know when you can lose salvation. We just know it can happen. That's basically what it boils down to. So at that point, it would seem that the only conclusion that one can kind of draw is, well, when you die, you'll see kind of what happens. So at that point, it's just, well, it's almost like a Muslim or Mormon type of a doctrine. With Muslims and Mormons, is basically, well, we really don't know. We just try to live the best life we can and have our good deeds outweigh our bad deeds, and at the judgment we will find out where we're going to go. That's basically, that's what they believe. You'll have some that say, well, no, I know where I'm going. But generally speaking, if you talk to a Muslim or a Mormon, basically it's, well, they'll find out at the judgment. They're trying to live the best life they can, and they will find out where they will end up when they die. So, I just, you kind of, when they say these things, you just kind of play it out to, the logical and biblical conclusion, and you just see how losing salvation just is not biblical. If you can't give an answer, and it's basically an open-ended, kind of ambiguous type of a response with no sort of way to be able to know when you lost salvation, well, then you can't know that you have salvation. You can't know that you have eternal life. If that's the case, you can't. How can you? You can't tell someone when they've lost it, so how do they know when they have it? So I just wanted to just come on and just kind of just put that out there real quick. So, all right, guys, until next time, peace and blessings.